Well, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to your next episode of Shonda's Talk. The title of this video is called "The Most Dangerous Person I Ever Met Was the Version of Me That Settled." So as I ask you in every video, I need you, yes you, to listen to me, with your ears, not your triggers, your trauma, your damage, your brokenness, or your bitterness. And right here in the very beginning of this video, I'm going to ask you some difficult questions. How many times have you been hurt by someone else? How many times were you hurt by the version of yourself that kept accepting what you already knew was no good for you? Some of the deepest wounds we carry, not all of them, some of them, are not what someone else did to us. It's what we kept allowing after that person showed us who they were. And as the saying goes, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Some of us are not recovering from a broken heart. We are recovering from the consequences of ignoring our own discernment. The person who hurt you, not always, sometimes, but not always, is not the person that damaged you the most. Sometimes it's the version of you that kept volunteering for the same pain. Red flags were never the problem because they were always there. The problem was you trying to convince yourself those red flags were temporary. Let's have an honest moment. And that's why I'm here, to give you some honesty to face in your mirror. Most relationships do not end from one mistake. Most relationships end because someone in the relationship normalized a pattern. The hardest truth we ever have to face is actually the title of this video. The dangerous person you will ever meet is not that other person. It's the version of you that kept settling. And let's talk about disrespect. Disrespect is not an emotion. And I'm going to tell you why. And as of today, June 6, 2026, we are going to stop accepting disrespect that is disguised as someone being emotional, because disrespect is not an emotion. I'm going to say that again. Disrespect is not an emotion. It is resentment finally reaching the surface. So let me tell you the difference between being emotional and being disrespectful. Being emotional is saying, I'm hurt. What you said hurt me. I feel overlooked. I'm frustrated, but I really don't know how to communicate it. Can we talk about something that's bothering me? I need a moment. I need space because I'm upset. Those are emotional responses. Disrespect says, I'm going to hurt you because you hurt me. Since you're so perfect, you figure it out. I don't care anymore. Whatever. I'm going to ignore your calls and your texts because I'm upset. I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to belittle you. I'm going to punish you. And I'm going to withhold affection because I want you to feel how I feel. That's disrespectful. I don't care what nobody say. That's disrespectful, toxic, and dysfunctional. But do you see the difference? One seeks understanding. One seeks punishment. Do you see the difference between the two? Just because someone is expressing a feeling does not mean they're expressing it in a healthy way. Pain explains behavior, but it does not excuse it. Emotions seek connection, understanding, and it invites conversation. Disrespect is not an emotional expression. It is emotional retaliation. Retaliation never solves what communication could have healed. I'm going to say that again. Retaliation never solves what communication could have healed. Healthy people know how to communicate their pain. Unhealthy people distribute it. That's why some conversations leave us feeling understood and at peace and relaxed and stuff like that, while others leave us feeling attacked, anxiety high, insomnia at an all-time high. You can't function, you can't eat, you can't do nothing because that conversation was quite disrespectful. When someone repeatedly wounds you and then hide behind a phrase, that's just how I feel. Today, we're going to stop calling that vulnerability, and we're going to start calling it what it is, and that is unhealthy behavior. Unhealed behavior, when it's left unchecked, becomes a pattern. Your emotions, not nobody else's, yours. Your emotions are your responsibility, but it does not give you a license to mistreat people. Relationships can survive mistakes. They can, but they cannot survive patterns. Let's be fair, all right? Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has bad days. Everyone sometimes say things they wish they could take back. Healthy relationships can survive mistakes. Healthy friendships can survive mistakes. Healthy workplaces can survive mistakes. But what they cannot survive is patterns. A mistake says, I messed up. A pattern says, this is who I have become comfortable being. And there is a huge difference between the two. A mistake is the event. A pattern is a lifestyle. You can forgive a mistake, but eventually you need to evaluate a pattern. The first time may deserve some grace, but the 10th time, it's time to do some evaluation. Apologies after change, an event, I should say, but without change is manipulation. And I'm just going to put that out there. And we all know that. Some of us have received more apologies than actual change. We have received the explanation. We have received the tears. We have received the promises. But the behavior stayed. That is manipulation. At some point, we have to acknowledge that accountability is not measured by how sorry someone sounds. So if I put on my sweet innocent girl voice and say, I am so sorry, can you please forgive me? You might say, you know what, she sounds sincere. No matter how I sound, if my behavior don't change, that is manipulation. It's measured by what comes or what that person does afterwards. An apology without change is simply a request for permission to repeat the same behavior. And this is where we are going to be completely honest, and I'm taking the gloves off. Some of us have become collectors of apologies. We have folders of explanations. We have conversations full of empty promises. We have years of, babe, I'll do better. But guess what? Better never came, because change is not proven by words. Change is proven by patterns. An apology is not evidence of change. Real accountability sounds like you won't ever have to experience this version of my behavior ever again. Not because they said it, It's because their behavior proved it. Your routine is really your personality. We all have routines. Your routine is your personality. It's not your intentions. It's not your promises. It's not your social media posts. And it's not even your apologies. When you repeatedly do what you repeatedly do tells the truth about who you really are. Your habits are introducing you long before your words are. Anyone can be intentional for a day. Anyone can be kind for a moment. Anyone can say the right things in a difficult conversation. But who you are consistently, your consistency is what reveals your character. Consistency is where character loses the ability to hide. Your habits tell the truth before your words even try to negotiate it. Eventually, your routine will expose what your mouth keeps trying to convince people that is not true. Communication after a conflict is not communication. And this is going to sting, but I need to say this so you can be accountable for what you hear with your ears, not your triggers, your trauma, your damage, your brokenness, or your bitterness. You cannot build a healthy relationship where communication only happens after a conflict. If the only time someone wants to communicate with you or talk to you after you have reached your breaking point, that is not communication. That is damage control. Healthy relationships happen healthy communication happens before resentment builds, before assumptions take over, before frustration explodes. Communication should be maintenance. You should communicate with your partner weekly, daily, however many times you need to communicate. It should be maintenance. You should have check-ins with your spouse all of the time. Communication is not an emergency response. Communicating should not be a reward for you reaching your breaking point. You should not want to communicate with me after I done blew up. You should not have to suffer in silence just to earn a conversation. If you have to break down to get attention, your voice was never enough. If someone only hears you after they hurt you, then they were never listening to you in the first place. Love is not a puzzle. Love is not a puzzle game. Love is beautiful. Some of us are so exhausted with love because we're trying to solve people instead of accepting them. Love is not a puzzle game. You should not spend years trying to force pieces together that came from different boxes, different values, different priorities, different levels of maturity, different levels of accountability, and then sit down one day and wonder why nothing fit. Everything is not supposed to fit. Life is not perfect. Nobody is perfect. Compatibility is not created by chemistry. It's revealed by consistency. The right relationship still requires work, but you should not require in this relationship to be a detective. Stop going through those phones. You should not be a therapist. Go get one. You should not be a negotiator or an emotional trash can. Just to understand where you stand with a person. That should be crystal clear. Love should require effort, but not constant interpretation. The older I get, the more I realize something. And going to therapy really started to put a lot of things in perspective for me. The most expensive thing that I ever lost was not the relationship. It was the time I spent convincing myself to ignore what I already knew. I should have let things go a while ago. Nobody hurt me more than the version of me that settled for less than I deserved. The version that I ignored was obvious, and therapy helped me realize that. The version that I kept believing potential over patterns. The version that I kept accepting apologies as substitutes for change. The version that kept calling inconsistency a rough season. The version that kept waiting for evidence from people who only offered me empty promises. Eventually, the pain stopped being about what they were doing. The pain became what I kept allowing. The moment I decided to stop settling, I stopped needing people to become who I hoped they would be. And I simply accepted who they consistently showed me they were. Acceptance is where freedom begins. Again, acceptance is where freedom begins. And I wouldn't be me if I didn't leave you with some additional reflective questions. Are you ready? Question number 1. Are you asking for communication, or are you begging for consideration? What version of yourself keeps getting hurt because it refuses to stop settling? Question number 3. What behavior have you been calling a mistake, even though it has become a pattern? Question number 4. Have you fallen in love with a person's potential more than their reality? In closing, maybe the lesson is not learning how to love people better. Maybe the lesson is learning how to love yourself enough to stop settling. Because when you finally do, you stop chasing words and you start watching patterns. And patterns will always tell you the truth. So stop settling for less than you deserve. You deserve someone who loves you unconditionally. You deserve someone who knows how to regulate their emotions in a healthy manner. You deserve someone who shows you empathy, compassion, and consideration. Most importantly, you deserve to be prioritized because, as I always say, you are your greatest asset. Thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do you know why? Because you deserve it. I love you.